The betting started before Petty Officer Kira Valdez even reached the serving line. $20, says the new kitchen help drops something within an hour, whispered recruit Martinez to his 4 companions clustered around their usual corner table. The others snickered, already calculating their winnings, as they watch her navigate between the metal prep stations with what they assumed was nervous uncertainty. She wore standard-issue utilities with sleeves rolled to regulation length, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun that revealed nothing of the tactical awareness constantly scanning her surroundings. To the 5 recruits studying her movements, she appeared to be exactly what her assignment suggested: temporary mess hall support, probably counting days until she could transfer to a desk job somewhere safer and quieter. Recruit Johnson leaned back in his chair, voice carrying just loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Think she even knows which end of a weapon to hold? His companions erupted in muffled laughter, their confidence growing with each dismissive comment. Behind the serving counter, Valdez continued her assigned duties, her peripheral vision cataloging every face, every voice, every potential tactical consideration in the crowded mess hall. The lunch rush brought waves of personnel through the facility, their conversations creating a steady din that masked the recruits' increasingly bold commentary. "She moves like she's afraid of her own shadow," observed Recruit Park, his tone dripping with professional superiority. "Probably never seen combat, never even been outside the wire." The others nodded sagely, their collective experience of 8 months in training making them experts on military bearing and capability assessment. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you have witnessed similar situations where assumptions were made about someone's military background in your area. Steam rose from the serving trays as Valdez refilled containers with mechanical precision, her movements economical and purposeful in ways the observing recruits interpreted as simple efficiency rather than trained muscle memory. Each gesture spoke of countless repetitions, though not necessarily the kind they imagined. When she lifted a full serving tray that would challenge most personnel, the 5 recruits exchanged knowing looks, their assessment solidifying into certainty. Recruit Thompson pushed back from his table, decision crystallizing in his mind. "Time someone taught kitchen duty about military standards," he announced to his companions, loud enough for other tables to notice. "Cannot have support staff thinking they belong with real service members." His 4 friends rose with him, their coordinated movement drawing attention from surrounding personnel who sensed entertainment approaching. The mess hall's afternoon lull provided perfect timing for their planned instruction session. Most senior personnel had returned to duties, leaving behind junior enlisted and support staff who would witness whatever lesson the recruits intended to deliver. Valdez continued her tasks, apparently oblivious to the approaching group, her focus seemingly consumed by the mundane requirements of food service and equipment maintenance. Tables began to quiet as the 5 recruits approached the serving area, their intentions obvious to everyone watching except apparently their intended target. Whispered conversations speculated about the outcome, with most observers assuming they were about to witness a standard intimidation display designed to establish military hierarchy and put support personnel in their proper place. The recruits' boots echoed against the polished floor as they closed distance, their formation unconsciously tactical despite their limited training. Behind the counter, Valdez straightened from her cleaning task, finally appearing to notice their approach. Her expression remained neutral, professional, giving no indication that she recognized the threat assessment protocols automatically engaging in her trained mind as 5 potential hostiles moved into optimal striking range. Martinez reached the counter first, his swagger amplified by the audience of junior personnel watching from nearby tables. "Hey, kitchen girl," he called out, his voice carrying the practiced authority of someone accustomed to addressing support staff. "You know there are standards around here, right? Real military standards, not whatever civilian operation you think you're running back there." Valdez looked up from the stainless steel surface she had been sanitizing, her dark eyes meeting his gaze with steady professionalism. "Can I help you with something, recruit?" she asked, her tone neutral, but carrying an undertone that made Martinez pause momentarily before his confidence reasserted itself. The other four recruits spread out slightly, creating a semicircle that blocked casual observers' view of the interaction. Johnson stepped closer, his bulk intended to intimidate through sheer physical presence. "We have been watching you all afternoon," he announced, gesturing toward their table where betting pools and commentary had entertained them through lunch. "Moving around like you own the place, acting like you belong with real service members." His companions nodded approvingly, their collective judgment gaining momentum through shared reinforcement. The afternoon sun slanted through high windows, casting long shadows across the mess hall floor, where personnel continued their conversations in hushed tones, sensing drama building near the serving area. Steam tables hissed softly, creating white clouds that drifted between the confrontation and its growing audience. Valdez maintained her position behind the counter, hands resting casually on the stainless steel surface in what appeared to be relaxed compliance. Park leaned against the counter edge, his movement calculated to appear casual while establishing dominance through physical space invasion. "See, the thing is," he explained with patronizing patience, "there is a hierarchy here you obviously do not understand. Support personnel like you serve real military personnel like us. You do not pretend to be something you are not, and you definitely do not act like you have earned respect you have not worked for." Thompson joined the verbal assault, his voice rising slightly to ensure surrounding tables could hear their educational session. "Bet you never even held a real weapon," he declared with absolute certainty. "Probably get nervous just thinking about actual combat." His four companions laughed appreciatively, their confidence building with each successful intimidation tactic and lack of resistance from their target. Behind the counter, Valdez continued her cleaning motions, her movements economical and controlled in ways the recruits interpreted as nervous compliance rather than tactical preparation. The dish rag in her hands moved across surfaces with mechanical precision while her eyes tracked each recruit's position, calculating angles, distances, and optimal response patterns should the situation escalate beyond verbal harassment. Recruit Williams, who had remained silent until now, decided to contribute his assessment to the group's collective wisdom. "Look at her trying to act tough," he observed with amusement. "Probably thinks standing there quiet makes her look military. Someone should explain that real service members do not hide behind kitchen counters when addressed by their superiors." The mess hall's ambient noise had decreased noticeably as surrounding personnel abandoned their conversations to focus on the developing confrontation. Whispered predictions circulated among the audience, with most expecting to witness standard intimidation followed by submission and possibly tears. None of the observers recognized the subtle shifts in Valdez's posture that indicated combat readiness rather than defensive fear. Martinez decided to escalate the interaction, his patience with educational dialogue exhausted by what he perceived as stubborn resistance to proper military hierarchy. "Time for a practical demonstration of respect," he announced to his companions, his intention clear to everyone within hearing range. "Cannot have support staff thinking they can ignore direct instruction from real military personnel." The five recruits began closing their semicircle, reducing escape routes and increasing psychological pressure through coordinated movement that demonstrated their tactical training despite its elementary level. Behind the counter, Valdez straightened slightly, her cleaning motions continuing with the same mechanical precision while her weight shifted almost imperceptibly to the balls of her feet. The afternoon sun continued streaming through windows, illuminating what surrounding personnel assumed would be a brief lesson in military hierarchy and proper respect for trained service members. The serving counter suddenly felt smaller as the five recruits tightened their formation, their coordinated movement creating an imposing wall of muscle and attitude that blocked most sight lines from curious observers. Martinez placed both hands on the stainless steel surface, leaning forward with deliberate aggression designed to force submission through proximity and implied threat. "You seem to have a hearing problem, kitchen girl," he said, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper that carried clearly to his companions, while remaining just low enough to avoid official attention from any senior personnel who might intervene. When real service members give you instruction, you respond with "yes, sir," and immediate compliance. You do not stand there pretending you belong in our world. Johnson moved to flank her position, his bulk casting a shadow across the prep area where Valdez continued her methodical cleaning routine. The dish rag in her hands moved in precise circles, each motion controlled and economical, while her peripheral vision tracked every shift in the recruit's positioning. Steam continued rising from the serving trays, creating a hazy barrier that partially obscured the developing confrontation from distant observers. "Maybe she needs a more direct explanation of military protocol," suggested Park, his tone carrying mock concern that barely concealed growing aggression. "Some people learn better through hands-on demonstration rather than verbal instruction." His companions nodded approvingly, their collective confidence building as their target continued showing what they interpreted as passive acceptance of their authority. The afternoon shift change brought a brief surge of personnel through the mess hall, their conversations and movement creating cover noise that emboldened the recruits to escalate their intimidation tactics. Williams stepped closer to the counter's edge, his movement designed to eliminate any remaining personal space while demonstrating the futility of resistance against superior numbers and training. Thompson decided the educational session required more direct physical presence, moving around the counters and to position himself behind their target's location. "Now she has nowhere to run when we explain proper respect," he announced to his companions, his voice carrying satisfaction at the tactical superiority they had achieved through coordinated positioning and overwhelming force advantage. Behind the serving line, Valdez found herself bracketed by 5 recruits whose confidence in their military superiority had blinded them to subtle indicators that might have warned more experienced personnel about the nature of their chosen target. Her cleaning motions never faltered, the dish rag continuing its precise patterns while her weight distribution shifted almost imperceptibly to accommodate rapid movement in any direction. The mess hall's ambient temperature seemed to rise as tension built around the serving area, though surrounding personnel attributed the charged atmosphere to standard military hierarchy enforcement rather than recognizing the tactical situation developing before their eyes. Whispered conversations speculated about how long the support staffer would resist before accepting her proper place in the military pecking order. Martinez reached across the counter, his hand moving toward Valdez's shoulder in a gesture intended to establish physical dominance through unwanted contact. "Time someone taught you about real military bearing," he declared, his confidence absolute as he prepared to demonstrate the consequences of disrespecting trained service members who had earned their positions through proper channels and legitimate training. The dish rag paused in its circular motion for the first time since the confrontation began, though the 5 recruits interpreted this hesitation as fear rather than tactical preparation. Their collective experience suggested that support personnel typically crumbled under coordinated pressure, accepting their subordinate status once physical intimidation supplemented verbal instruction about proper military hierarchy. Park stepped closer, his movement coordinated with Thompson's positioning to create maximum psychological pressure through superior numbers and tactical advantage. "She is finally starting to understand," he observed with satisfaction, mistaking Valdez's stillness for submission rather than the calm preparation that preceded decisive action in trained combat personnel. The afternoon sun continued streaming through mess hall windows, illuminating what the 5 recruits assumed would be their successful demonstration of military authority over support staff who had forgotten their proper place in the service hierarchy. Steam rose from serving trays, creating shifting shadows that danced across stainless steel surfaces where a confrontation approached its critical moment. Johnson prepared to deliver what he expected would be the final verbal instruction before their target accepted proper military protocol. "Listen carefully, kitchen girl," he began, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to immediate compliance from subordinate personnel. "You are about to learn why real service members deserve respect and why support staff stay in their assigned positions without pretending to belong where they have not earned the right to stand. Martinez's hand stopped inches from Valdez's shoulder as her voice cut through the tension with quiet precision that carried an unmistakable edge of authority. "I would reconsider that decision. Recruit," she said, her tone shifting from neutral compliance to something that made all 5 recruits pause momentarily, their confidence wavering as they processed the unexpected change in their target's demeanor. The dish rag dropped from her hand, landing on the stainless steel counter with a soft sound that seemed unnaturally loud in the suddenly charged atmosphere. For the first time since the confrontation began, Valdez turned to face her harassers directly, her dark eyes moving systematically from face to face with an assessment technique that made each recruit feel individually evaluated and found lacking. Johnson recovered first, his bulk reasserting dominance through sheer physical presence. "Did you just give me an order, kitchen girl?" he demanded, though his voice carried less certainty than before. His 4 companions rallied around his renewed aggression, their collective confidence rebuilding as they reminded themselves of their overwhelming numerical and tactical advantage over a single support staffer. "You have about 10 seconds to step back and return to your table," Valdez replied, her voice maintaining the same quiet precision while her posture shifted subtly into something that would have been immediately recognizable to experienced combat personnel as a ready stance. The 5 recruits, however, interpreted her stillness as defiance rather than preparation, their limited training insufficient to recognize true tactical positioning. Park laughed, though the sound carried forced bravado rather than genuine amusement. "Listen to her trying to sound tough," he announced to his companions, seeking reinforcement for confidence that had begun showing hairline cracks. "Probably thinks watching action movies taught her how to handle real service members." His friends nodded, but their movements had become less coordinated, individual doubt beginning to undermine group certainty. The mess hall's background noise seemed to fade as surrounding personnel sensed a fundamental shift in the confrontation's dynamic. Conversations quieted, chairs stopped scraping, and the ambient sounds of food service operations took on an almost ominous quality as witnesses unconsciously prepared for something beyond standard military hierarchy enforcement. Thompson moved closer, his decision to escalate driven by growing unease rather than confidence. "Time to end this little fantasy," he declared, reaching toward Valdez with the intention of physically demonstrating her helplessness against superior numbers and training. His hand moved through the air toward her arm, expecting to encounter the yielding compliance typical of intimidated support personnel. Instead, his wrist found itself caught in a grip that stopped his movement with shocking precision and unmistakable strength. The contact lasted only a moment before Valdez released him, but that brief connection transmitted information that made Thompson's face pale visibly as he stepped backward, his tactical assessment of the situation undergoing rapid and fundamental revision. Williams, witnessing his companion's unexpected retreat, felt his own confidence beginning to crumble. "What just happened?" he whispered to Martinez, who was staring at Valdez with dawning uncertainty. The support staffer they had chosen for intimidation was displaying physical control and tactical awareness that contradicted everything they had assumed about her background and capabilities. Martinez attempted to salvage the situation through renewed verbal aggression, though his voice now carried an undertone of doubt that had been absent moments earlier. "You think some self-defense class makes you dangerous?" he challenged, though his positioning had unconsciously shifted to create more distance between himself and their intended target. "Real military training beats civilian martial arts every time." Behind the counter, Valdez remained motionless, her breathing controlled and her stance balanced in ways that spoke of muscle memory developed through extensive combat training rather than weekend self-defense courses. The 5 recruits found themselves facing a tactical reality that contradicted their assumptions, though their limited experience prevented them from fully understanding the nature of their miscalculation. Steam continued rising from serving trays, creating shifting shadows that seemed to dance around a confrontation that had transformed from certain victory into something far more uncertain. The afternoon sun slanted through windows, illuminating a scene where 5 confident recruits were beginning to realize that their chosen target might possess capabilities that extended far beyond kitchen duty and support functions. Park attempted one final assertion of dominance, his voice rising to convince himself as much as his companions. 5 against 1, he declared with forced conviction. Numbers always win, no matter what kind of attitude she wants to display. His friends nodded, though their movements had become hesitant, group dynamics shifting as individual doubts began undermining collective confidence in their overwhelming tactical advantage. The tactical situation deteriorated rapidly as Park's assertion of numerical superiority triggered the final escalation the 5 recruits had been building towards since their approach began. Johnson stepped forward first, his bulk intended to overwhelm through sheer mass what finesse had failed to accomplish. Time to teach kitchen duty some real respect, he announced, his hands moving toward Valdez with the confidence of someone who had never encountered genuine resistance. His reach ended abruptly as Valdez shifted her weight, her movement economical and precise in ways that transformed the space behind the counter from defensive position into tactical advantage. Johnson found himself off balance, his momentum redirected through leverage techniques that sent him stumbling sideways into the steam tables with a metallic crash that echoed through the suddenly silent mess hall. Martinez reacted to his companion's unexpected difficulty by committing fully to physical confrontation, his training insufficient to recognize the controlled violence potential he was engaging. She got lucky with Johnson, he called to his remaining friends, though his voice carried uncertainty that contradicted his words. Rush her together, and this ends quickly. The coordinated assault lasted exactly 4 seconds. Williams moved first, his approach telegraphed through poor footwork that advertised his intentions to anyone with tactical experience. Valdez responded with movement that flowed like water around his clumsy attempt at grappling, her counter technique depositing him face first against the floor with mechanical precision that spoke of countless repetitions under expert instruction. Thompson attempted to capitalize on what he perceived as his companion's distraction of their target, approaching from her blind side with confidence born of limited experience in actual combat situations. His tactical error became apparent when Valdez demonstrated that properly trained personnel maintain 360-degree awareness, her response sending him into the serving counter with enough force to dent stainless steel. Park found himself facing an opponent whose capabilities exceeded every assumption their group had made during their planning and approach phases. The support staffer they had selected for intimidation was displaying combat skills that belonged in advanced training facilities rather than mess hall duty assignments. His confidence evaporated as he watched his 4 companions struggling to regain their footing after encounters lasting mere seconds. The mess hall erupted in stunned silence as personnel throughout the facility processed what they had witnessed. Conversations stopped mid-sentence, chairs remained frozen in half-pulled positions, and the ambient noise of normal operations ceased entirely as everyone focused on the serving area, where 5 confident recruits had just discovered the difference between training exercises and actual combat capability. Martinez attempted to salvage the situation through renewed verbal aggression, though his positioning had retreated several steps from the counter where Valdez remained motionless, her breathing unchanged despite having neutralized 4 attackers in rapid succession. "This is not over," he declared, though his voice carried the hollow bravado of someone whose tactical assessment had been fundamentally altered by unexpected reality. Behind the counter, Valdez straightened her uniform with the same methodical precision she had applied to cleaning duties, her movements suggesting that the brief physical encounter had required no more effort than routine maintenance tasks. The dish rag lay forgotten on stainless steel surfaces where steam continued rising from serving trays, creating an almost surreal contrast between domestic food service operations and demonstrated combat proficiency. Johnson struggled to his feet, his earlier confidence replaced by dawning recognition that their chosen target possessed training that exceeded their collective experience by orders of magnitude. His tactical mind, such as it was, began processing the possibility that they had engaged someone whose background included capabilities far beyond standard support personnel assignments and civilian self-defense courses. The afternoon sun continued streaming through mess hall windows, illuminating a scene that had transformed from anticipated intimidation into demonstration of professional competence that left 5 recruits questioning every assumption they had made about military hierarchy, support staff capabilities, and their own tactical superiority over personnel they had judged based on assignment rather than qualification. Williams attempted to stand, his movement hampered by disorientation that spoke to the precision with which Valdez had controlled his impact with the floor. Through his confusion, he began recognizing details about her stance, her breathing, her tactical awareness that suggested training far beyond anything available to standard support personnel or civilian martial arts enthusiasts. Thompson remained against the serving counter, his position providing perfect vantage point to observe the woman they had attempted to intimidate. Her posture, her economy of movement, her complete lack of elevated heart rate or defensive positioning spoke to combat experience that belonged in elite units rather than kitchen assignments, though his limited knowledge prevented him from identifying the specific nature of her background. The silence stretched across the mess hall like a physical presence, broken only by the soft hiss of steam tables and the labored breathing of 4 recruits attempting to process their rapid introduction to genuine combat capability. Martinez remained standing, though his position had unconsciously retreated to what his tactical instincts recognized as minimum safe distance from someone who had just demonstrated professional-level violence application. Petty Officer Second Class Chun, seated 3 tables away, slowly lowered his coffee cup as recognition dawned in his experienced eyes. "Holy shit," he whispered to his companion, his voice carrying the awe of someone who had witnessed capabilities that belonged in classified briefings rather than mess hall confrontations. That was not self-defense class technique. That was military close-quarters combat, and she applied it like someone who has done it for real. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez rose from her position near the windows, her movement deliberate as she approached the serving area where the confrontation had concluded with such decisive finality. Her experienced gaze swept over the 4 recruits struggling to regain their composure, then focused on Valdez with the assessment skills of someone who had spent years evaluating combat personnel and their capabilities. Johnson finally managed to stand fully upright, though his movements carried the careful precision of someone whose confidence in his physical capabilities had been fundamentally shattered by a 4-second encounter with superior training. His eyes remained fixed on Valdez, searching for clues about her background that his initial assessment had so catastrophically missed during their approach and intimidation attempts. The whispered conversations began spreading through surrounding tables as personnel shared their observations and speculation about what they had witnessed. "Did you see how she moved?" asked Corporal Williams to his table companions. "That was not lucky technique. That was trained response, probably thousands of hours of practice to achieve that kind of automatic reaction under pressure." Martinez attempted one final assertion of authority, though his voice carried none of the confidence that had characterized his earlier verbal assaults. "This is not over," he repeated, though his positioning and tone suggested someone trying to convince himself rather than threatening an opponent whose capabilities had exceeded every assumption his limited experience could generate. Behind the counter, Valdez retrieved the dish rag from where it had fallen, her movements returning to the methodical precision that had characterized her cleaning routine before the interruption. The transition from combat readiness to routine maintenance tasks occurred with seamless professionalism that spoke to training designed for rapid escalation and de-escalation as tactical situations required. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez reached the serving area, her presence commanding immediate attention from the 5 recruits who recognized senior enlisted authority even through their confusion and disorientation. "Recruits," she said, her voice carrying the unmistakable tone of someone accustomed to immediate compliance from junior personnel. "I think you have somewhere else you need to be right now." The dismissal scattered the 5 recruits with varying degrees of haste, though Martinez lingered long enough to deliver one final glare that promised future confrontation despite his tactical disadvantage becoming increasingly apparent to everyone who had witnessed the encounter. His companions limped away with him, their earlier swagger replaced by careful movement that spoke to newfound respect for capabilities they had not anticipated. Rodriguez turned her attention to Valdez, who continued her cleaning duties with the same mechanical precision that had characterized her work throughout the confrontation. "Petty Officer Valdez," she said, her tone carrying professional courtesy rather than the casual dismissal typically directed toward support staff. "I think we should have a conversation about your current assignment and whether it represents optimal utilization of your particular skill set." The mess hall's normal operations began resuming gradually as personnel processed what they had witnessed and attempted to return to routine activities despite the undercurrent of speculation and discussion about the brief but decisive demonstration of combat capability they had observed. Steam continued rising from serving trays, creating familiar sounds and visual cues that contrasted sharply with the tactical precision that had just transformed the space. Valdez looked up from her cleaning task, meeting Rodriguez's gaze with the same steady professionalism she had maintained throughout the encounter. Her expression revealed nothing about her background or training, though her controlled breathing and relaxed posture spoke to someone for whom physical confrontation represented routine occupational hazard rather than extraordinary circumstance requiring extended recovery time. Chin approached their conversation, his coffee forgotten as curiosity overcame military protocol regarding interference in senior enlisted discussions. "Staff Sergeant," he said, his voice carrying the careful tone of someone seeking permission to speak freely. "I have been in this military for 12 years, and I have never seen technique like that outside of special operations demonstrations. Where exactly did Petty Officer Valdez receive her training?" The question hung in the air like challenge and revelation combined, creating a moment where multiple personnel found themselves reconsidering everything they assumed they knew about assignment protocols, support staff capabilities, and the true nature of the woman who had just demonstrated that appearances could be profoundly misleading indicators of actual tactical competence and combat readiness. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez studied Valdez with the analytical gaze of someone whose survival had once depended on accurate assessment of personnel capabilities under pressure. The brief demonstration she had witnessed contained tactical elements that belonged in specialized training facilities rather than routine military education, techniques that required years of refinement under expert instruction to achieve the automatic precision she had observed. "Petty Officer Valdez," Rodriguez said, her voice carrying professional courtesy that acknowledged potential equal rather than addressing subordinate support staff. "Your personnel file indicates kitchen duty assignment, but your response pattern suggests training that extends considerably beyond standard military education. Would you care to clarify the discrepancy between your current assignment and your apparent qualifications?" Chun moved closer, his curiosity overcoming protocol as he processed details that had initially escaped his notice during the rapid confrontation. "Staff Sergeant," he interjected with careful respect, those were not improvised techniques. The leverage applications, the timing, the control force deployment, all of it spoke to intensive, specialized training under expert supervision. Someone taught her those specific responses and not in basic military education programs. The mess hall's atmosphere had shifted perceptibly as word spread through surrounding tables about the brief but decisive encounter that had concluded with such unexpected results. Personnel throughout the facility found themselves stealing glances toward the serving area, where a support staff member had just demonstrated capabilities that contradicted every assumption about assignment protocols and personnel utilization procedures. Valdez continued her cleaning routine, the dish rag moving across stainless steel surfaces with the same methodical precision that had characterized her work before the interruption. Her breathing remained controlled, her posture relaxed, suggesting that the physical encounter had required no more effort than routine maintenance tasks, despite neutralizing 4 attackers in rapid succession through techniques that spoke to extensive combat experience. Rodriguez stepped closer to the counter, her movement deliberate as she positioned herself for private conversation despite the growing audience of curious personnel. "Petty officer," she said, lowering her voice to maintain operational security while seeking clarification about capabilities that seemed profoundly mismatched with current duty assignments. "What is your actual military occupational specialty? Because kitchen duty does not typically produce personnel with your demonstrated skill set." The question created a moment of tension that extended beyond the immediate conversation as surrounding personnel recognized the significance of Rodriguez's inquiry. Assignment discrepancies of this magnitude suggested either administrative error or deliberate concealment of qualifications that belonged in specialized units rather than support functions and routine duty rotations. Chen's tactical mind began processing implications that extended beyond individual capabilities to organizational questions about personnel utilization and mission requirements. "Staff Sergeant," he said, his voice carrying growing certainty. "If she is training at that level, there has to be paperwork somewhere that explains her presence in kitchen duty. People with those skills do not get assigned to food service unless there are specific operational reasons." The afternoon sun continued streaming through mess hall windows, illuminating a scene where routine military operations have been interrupted by demonstration of capabilities that suggested hidden depths beneath surface appearances. Steam rose from serving trays, creating familiar atmospheric conditions that contrasted sharply with the tactical precision that had transformed the space into a training demonstration area. Valdez paused in her cleaning routine, meeting Rodriguez's gaze with steady professionalism that revealed nothing about her background, while acknowledging the legitimacy of questions about assignment appropriateness and qualification utilization. Her silence spoke louder than explanation, creating space for speculation about operational security requirements and classified assignment protocols. Rodriguez recognized the tactical significance of that silence, her experience suggesting possibilities that extended beyond administrative error into deliberate concealment for reasons that might involve operational security or specialized mission requirements. The woman standing behind the serving counter possessed training that belonged in elite units, yet her presence in kitchen duty suggested complexity that normal personnel procedures could not explain. The whispered conversations spreading through surrounding tables reflected growing awareness that they had witnessed something beyond routine military hierarchy enforcement. Personnel throughout the facility began reconsidering their assumptions about support staff capabilities and the possibility that appearances might be profoundly misleading indicators of actual qualifications and combat readiness. Chen approached the counter directly, his curiosity overcoming protocol as he sought clarification about capabilities that had exceeded every expectation based on initial assessment and assignment designation. "Petty Officer Valdez," he said, his voice carrying the respect due to demonstrated competence rather than routine courtesy for support personnel. "Where did you receive your combat training? Because what I witnessed belongs in special operations rather than general military education." The question hung in the air like challenge and recognition combined, creating a moment where multiple personnel found themselves questioning everything they assumed about personnel assignments, operational security requirements, and the true nature of routine duty rotations that might conceal capabilities far beyond their apparent purpose and standard expectations. The tension in the mess hall reached a new level as Master Chief Petty Officer Harrison entered through the main entrance, his presence commanding immediate attention from personnel throughout the facility. His experienced gaze swept the room, taking in the unusual configuration of people clustered around the serving area and the underlying current of excitement that suggested something significant had occurred during his absence. Rodriguez straightened to attention as Harrison approached, her body language shifting to formal military bearing despite the informal nature of their investigation into Valdez's background and qualifications. "Master Chief," she reported with professional precision. "We have had an incident involving Petty Officer Valdez and 5 recruits that has raised questions about personnel assignment protocols and operational security considerations." Harrison's weathered features revealed nothing as he processed Rodriguez's report, though his eyes moved to Valdez with the assessment skills of someone who had spent decades evaluating combat personnel under various conditions. His gaze lingered on details that less experienced observers had missed. Her breathing pattern, her stance, the controlled way she held herself that spoke to training beyond standard military education. Chun stepped forward, his excitement overcoming protocol as he sought to share his observations with someone whose experience might provide context for what they had witnessed. "Master Chief," he said, his voice carrying the urgency of someone who had recognized capabilities that exceeded normal expectations. "She neutralized 4 attackers in less than 10 seconds using techniques that belong in classified training programs, not general military education." The Master Chief moved closer to the serving counter, his approach deliberate as he positioned himself for direct assessment of personnel whose capabilities seemed mismatched with current assignment designation. His eyes took in the pristine condition of Valdez's uniform despite having engaged in physical confrontation, the steadiness of her hands, the alert but relaxed posture that suggested extensive combat experience. "Petty Officer Valdez," Harrison said, his voice carrying the authority of senior enlisted leadership, combined with professional curiosity about assignment discrepancies that might involve operational considerations beyond routine personnel management. "Your current duty assignment indicates food service specialization, but witness reports suggest capabilities that extend considerably beyond kitchen operations. Care to explain the discrepancy?" The question created a moment of absolute silence as surrounding personnel recognized the significance of senior leadership directly questioning assignment protocols and qualification utilization procedures. The mess hall's normal operations had effectively ceased as everyone within hearing range focused on a conversation that might reveal classified information about personnel assignments and operational security requirements. Valdez met Harrison's gaze with steady professionalism, her silence speaking to training that included operational security protocols and information compartmentalization procedures. Her posture remained relaxed despite the intensity of scrutiny from multiple senior personnel, suggesting comfort with high-pressure situations and command attention that belonged in leadership roles rather than support functions. Harrison's tactical mind began processing possibilities that extended beyond administrative error into deliberate concealment for operational reasons that might involve specialized mission requirements or classified assignment protocols. The woman standing behind the serving counter possessed demonstrated capabilities that belonged in elite units. Yet her presence in kitchen duty suggested complexity that normal personnel procedures could not adequately explain. Rodriguez watched the interaction with growing understanding that they might be dealing with operational security considerations beyond their clearance level or need-to-know requirements. The tactical precision Valdez had demonstrated spoke to training that involved significant investment in personnel development, resources that would not be wasted on routine support functions without specific operational justification. The afternoon sun continued streaming through mess hall windows, creating shifting patterns of light and shadow that seemed to emphasize the mysterious nature of the woman whose capabilities had exceeded every assumption based on initial assessment and assignment designation. Steam rose from serving trays, maintaining familiar atmospheric conditions despite the extraordinary circumstances developing around the serving area. Chun attempted to provide additional context for Harrison's assessment, his voice carrying the careful tone of someone seeking to share critical information without overstepping protocol boundaries. "Master Chief," he said, "those were not improvised techniques or lucky applications of basic training. Someone invested serious time and resources in her combat education, probably at levels that require security clearances and specialized facility access." Harrison nodded slowly, his expression revealing growing recognition of complexities that extended beyond routine personnel management into areas that might involve classified operations and compartmentalized information systems. The demonstration he had missed, but could reconstruct from witness testimony, suggested capabilities that belonged in units with specific mission requirements and operational specializations. The whispered conversations spreading through surrounding tables reflected growing awareness that they were witnessing something beyond routine military operations, possibly involving personnel with backgrounds that normal assignment procedures could not adequately address or explain through standard organizational charts and duty rosters. Master Chief Harrison reached into his cargo pocket, withdrawing a secure communication device that immediately commanded the attention of everyone within visual range. His fingers moved across the keypad with practiced efficiency as he accessed personnel databases that required his clearance level and command authorization to review classified assignment information and operational security protocols. The device's screen illuminated his weathered features as he scrolled through data that made his expression shift from professional curiosity to something approaching recognition and concern. Rodriguez watched his face carefully, her experience reading senior leadership reactions, suggesting that Harrison had discovered information that explained the discrepancies they had observed between assignment and demonstrated capabilities. Petty Officer Valdez, Harrison said, his voice carrying a new tone of professional respect that acknowledged equal status rather than addressing subordinate personnel. According to the classified personnel database, your current assignment is temporary duty pending completion of a specific operational requirement. Your actual military occupational specialty is listed as Naval Special Warfare Operator with current clearance levels that exceed my authority to discuss in this environment. The revelation hit the surrounding personnel like a physical force, creating absolute silence as everyone within hearing range processed the implications of Harrison's discovery. Chen's coffee cup slipped from nerveless fingers, clattering against the table as he stared at Valdez with newfound understanding of what they had witnessed during the brief but decisive confrontation with 5 overconfident recruits. Naval Special Warfare meant Navy SEALs, the elite units whose training and operational capabilities belonged in classified briefings rather than mess hall encounters. Rodriguez felt her tactical assessment of the situation undergo fundamental revision as she realized they had been questioning someone whose qualifications exceeded their combined experience by orders of magnitude and whose presence in kitchen duty involved operational considerations beyond their comprehension. Harrison continued reading from the secure device, his voice carrying growing respect as additional details emerged from the classified database. Petty Officer Valdez, he announced, current assignment involves undercover operational security assessment of base personnel and facility vulnerabilities. Your demonstrated response to harassment was within operational parameters and completely justified given the circumstances and mission requirements. The mess hall erupted in whispered conversations as personnel throughout the facility began reconsidering everything they had assumed about support staff capabilities and the possibility that routine assignments might conceal specialized personnel conducting classified operations. The woman they had dismissed as kitchen help was revealed as elite special operations personnel whose training represented years of intensive education under expert supervision. Valdez maintained her professional composure despite the revelation of her classified status, though her posture shifted subtly to acknowledge the changed dynamic now that her true qualifications had been disclosed to senior leadership and witness personnel. Her silence throughout the questioning had protected operational security until proper authority could access classified information and provide appropriate context. Chen struggled to process the magnitude of his earlier assessment error, his tactical mind recalculating everything he had observed during the confrontation with new understanding of Valdez's actual capabilities and training background. Those were SEAL techniques, he whispered to Rodriguez, his voice carrying awe at having witnessed classified training applications in routine facility environment. The 5 recruits who had initiated the confrontation were nowhere to be seen, having departed before Harrison's arrival and the subsequent revelation of their target's true identity and qualifications. Their tactical miscalculation had escalated from simple harassment into engagement with elite special operations personnel whose training exceeded their collective experience by factors they could not comprehend. Harrison closed the secure device and returned it to his cargo pocket, his expression reflecting the professional respect due to personnel whose operational capabilities and mission requirements involve classified activities beyond routine military operations. Petty Officer Valdez, he said, "Your cover assignment will continue as planned, though I suspect word of today's demonstration will require mission parameter adjustments." Rodriguez stepped forward, her curiosity overcoming protocol as she sought clarification about operational procedures that seemed to blend routine facility operations with classified special operations activities. "Master Chief," she asked, "how many other personnel and support assignments might actually be conducting classified operations that we are not authorized to know about or recognize?" The question hung in the air like revelation and challenge combined, suggesting that routine military operations might conceal layers of complexity involving specialized personnel and classified activities that normal facility staff could not identify through standard observation and assessment procedures. The afternoon sun continued streaming through windows, illuminating a scene where assumptions about personnel assignments have been fundamentally altered by unexpected disclosure. Valdez returned to her cleaning routine, the dish rag resuming its methodical patterns across stainless steel surfaces as she maintained her cover assignment despite the compromise of her operational security. Her movements carried the same professional precision that had characterized her work throughout the encounter, though surrounding personnel now understood the true nature of the capabilities they had witnessed. The mess hall door burst open with enough force to rattle the hinges as Martinez led his 4 companions back into the facility, their earlier retreat having transformed into renewed determination fueled by wounded pride and collective embarrassment over their tactical failure. Their return carried the swagger of personnel who had spent 30 minutes convincing themselves that numerical superiority would eventually overcome whatever lucky techniques their target had employed. Johnson's bulk led the charge toward the serving area, his confidence rebuilt through group reinforcement and selective memory that had minimized the precision of Valdez's earlier responses. "Round 2, kitchen girl," he announced loudly enough for the entire facility to hear. "This time we finish what you started with your little self-defense demonstration and put you back in your proper place among support personnel where you belong." The timing of their return could not have been more catastrophic for the 5 recruits, whose tactical assessment remained based on assumptions that had been obliterated by Harrison's revelation 30 seconds earlier. They approached the serving counter with absolute confidence in their ability to overwhelm someone they still believed was Ms. support staff, rather than elite special operations personnel conducting classified operations. Master Chief Harrison stepped into their path with the authority of senior enlisted leadership, his presence commanding immediate attention from the 5 recruits who found themselves facing unexpected opposition from facility command structure. "Recruits," he said, his voice carrying the unmistakable tone of someone delivering official instruction rather than casual guidance. "You need to understand exactly who you just attempted to assault and why your actions constitute a serious breach of military protocol and operational security." Martinez attempted to salvage their renewed offensive through appeal to military hierarchy and proper chain of command procedures. "Master Chief," he said, his voice carrying forced respect designed to mask continuing aggression toward their intended target. "That support staffer attacked military personnel without provocation and needs to face consequences for her actions against properly trained service members, conducting legitimate instruction about military bearing and respect." Harrison's expression shifted to something that made all 5 recruits step backward involuntarily as they recognized the look of senior leadership who had discovered serious violations of protocol and operational procedures. "Recruits," he announced, his voice carrying across the silent mess hall where every conversation had stopped to focus on the developing confrontation. "You just attempted to assault a classified naval special warfare operator conducting undercover operational security assessment under direct command authorization. The words hit the 5 recruits like physical blows as the magnitude of their tactical miscalculation became apparent through official disclosure of information that transformed their harassment attempt into engagement with elite special operations personnel. Johnson's face drained of color as he processed the implications of having attacked someone whose training exceeded his comprehension and whose operational status involved classified activities. Naval Special Warfare meant Navy SEALs, the elite units whose selection process eliminated 90% of candidates and whose operational capabilities belonged in classified mission briefings rather than routine facility encounters. Williams felt his knees weaken as he realized they had cornered and attempted to intimidate someone whose qualifications included training that represented years of intensive education under expert supervision. Thompson attempted to process the information through tactical frameworks that could not accommodate the reality of their situation, his limited experience providing no context for understanding the nature of personnel they had engaged or the potential consequences of their actions against classified operations and elite special warfare operators conducting authorized missions. Park's voice cracked as he attempted to speak, his earlier confidence completely evaporated by revelation that their chosen target possessed training that exceeded their collective capabilities by orders of magnitude. "Master Chief," he managed, "we did not know. The assignment indicated kitchen duty. We thought she was just support personnel who needed instruction about proper military hierarchy and respect for trained service members." Harrison's gaze moved systematically from face to face, his assessment technique making each recruit feel individually evaluated for disciplinary action and potential consequences related to interference with classified operations and assault on special operations personnel. The silence stretched as he allowed the full weight of their tactical error to settle into their consciousness through direct confrontation with senior authority. Rodriguez stepped forward, her professional curiosity overcoming protocol as she sought clarification about procedures and consequences related to unauthorized engagement with classified personnel conducting undercover operations. "Master Chief," she asked, "what are the standard protocols when facility personnel unknowingly interfere with special operations activities and operational security assessments?" The question created additional tension as the 5 recruits realized their actions might involve consequences beyond routine disciplinary measures, potentially extending into areas involving classified activities and special operations command structures that operated under different rules and punishment protocols than standard military justice procedures and facility management systems. Chun watched the developing situation with growing understanding of complexities that extended beyond routine harassment into areas involving operational security breaches and interference with classified activities conducted by personnel whose mission parameters included assessment of facility vulnerabilities and security protocols through undercover operations and direct observation. The secure communication device in Harrison's cargo pocket emitted a distinctive tone that immediately commanded the attention of everyone within hearing range, its encrypted signal indicating incoming priority communication from command authority levels that exceeded facility parameters. Harrison withdrew the device with practiced efficiency, his expression becoming increasingly grave as he reviewed the classified message displayed on the secure screen. "Petty Officer Valdez," he announced, his voice carrying official authority as he relayed command instructions to personnel conducting classified operations under direct authorization. "Naval Special Warfare Command requests immediate situation report regarding operational security compromise and unauthorized interference with undercover assessment activities. Your cover status has been officially terminated due to facility exposure and witness contamination." The 5 recruits stood frozen as the implications of Harrison's announcement penetrated their shocked consciousness, their tactical minds struggling to process the magnitude of consequences flowing from their harassment attempt against personnel whose operational status involved command levels far beyond their understanding or experience. Martinez felt bile rising in his throat as he realized their actions had compromised classified operations and attracted attention from Special Operations Command structures. Rodriguez stepped closer to Harrison, her professional curiosity overcoming protocol as she sought clarification about procedures involving operational security breaches and command intervention in facility incidents. "Master Chief," she asked, her voice carrying careful respect for information that might exceed her clearance level. "What happens when classified operations are compromised through unauthorized personnel interference and facility exposure?" The secure device emitted another tone as additional communications arrived from Command Authority, each message escalating the severity of the situation beyond routine facility management into areas involving special operations protocols and classified mission parameters. Harrison's expression reflected growing concern as he processed instructions that suggested significant consequences for all personnel involved in the operational security compromise. Johnson attempted to speak, his voice barely above a whisper, as the full weight of their tactical miscalculation became apparent through official command attention and classified communication traffic. "Master Chief," he managed, his earlier confidence completely obliterated by revelation of the true nature of their actions. "We thought she was just kitchen help. We never intended to interfere with classified operations or compromise special warfare activities." Harrison looked up from the secure device, his weathered features revealing the kind of expression that made experienced personnel recognize serious trouble approaching from command levels that operated under different rules than routine military justice procedures. "Recruits," he said, his voice carrying the finality of someone delivering official consequences rather than casual guidance. "Naval Special Warfare Command has classified your actions as deliberate interference with authorized operations and assault on special operations personnel conducting classified assessment activities." The mess hall had become completely silent as personnel throughout the facility recognized they were witnessing consequences that extended beyond routine disciplinary measures into areas involving special operations command intervention and classified mission protocols. Williams felt his knees buckle as he processed the reality that their harassment attempt had escalated into official attention from elite units whose operational parameters exceeded their comprehension. Valdez moved around the serving counter for the first time since the original confrontation, her movement fluid and professional as she approached Harrison to receive official instructions regarding mission termination and operational security procedures. Her transition from cover assignment to acknowledged special operations status occurred with seamless precision that spoke to extensive training in classified activities and compartmentalized operations. Thompson watched her approach with dawning understanding of the tactical sophistication they had unknowingly engaged, his limited experience providing inadequate framework for comprehending the level of professional competence they had encountered during their attempted intimidation session. The woman they had dismissed as support staff moved with the controlled precision of someone whose training represented years of intensive education under expert supervision. The secure device emitted a final tone as Harrison received what appeared to be definitive instructions from Command Authority, his expression suggesting that the consequences for the 5 recruits would extend considerably beyond routine facility discipline into areas involving special operations justice procedures and classified mission interference protocols. Park attempted one desperate appeal to authority that might mitigate the consequences of their actions, his voice cracking with the strain of processing information that exceeded his tactical frameworks and experience parameters. "Master Chief," he pleaded, "we are just recruits. We made a mistake based on incomplete information about personnel assignments and operational activities. Surely Command will consider our limited experience and training when determining appropriate consequences." Harrison's response carried the weight of senior leadership who had spent decades managing personnel whose actions required intervention from command levels that operated under different rules than standard military justice procedures. "Recruits," he announced, his voice echoing across the silent mess hall where every conversation had stopped to focus on official consequences. "Naval Special Warfare Command does not recognize incomplete information as justification for assault on special operations personnel or interference with classified activities conducted under direct authorization and operational security protocols. The afternoon sun continued streaming through mess hall windows, illuminating a scene where 5 confident recruits had discovered that their tactical miscalculation had attracted attention from command structures whose response procedures exceeded their understanding and whose consequences would extend far beyond anything their limited experience could have anticipated or prepared them to handle through normal disciplinary channels. The mess hall doors opened with military precision as Commander Sarah Blake entered the facility, her Naval Special Warfare insignia immediately commanding the attention of every person present. Her arrival represented direct intervention from Special Operations Command levels that operated under classified protocols and disciplinary procedures that exceeded routine facility management authority and standard military justice systems. Master Chief Harrison snapped to attention as Blake approached, her presence transforming the atmosphere from facility incident into official special operations investigation with consequences that would extend far beyond routine disciplinary measures. Commander, he reported with professional precision, Petty Officer Valdez's operational security assessment was compromised through unauthorized personnel interference requiring immediate command intervention and mission parameter adjustment. Blake's experienced gaze swept the mess hall, taking in the 5 recruits whose tactical miscalculation had escalated from simple harassment into interference with classified operations conducted under direct, Special Warfare Command authorization. Her assessment technique, refined through years of evaluating personnel under extreme conditions, made each recruit feel individually scrutinized for disciplinary action and potential consequences involving classified mission protocols. Petty Officer Valdez, Blake said, her voice carrying the authority of Special Operations Command combined with professional respect for personnel whose operational capabilities have been demonstrated under hostile conditions. Your assessment mission identified significant facility vulnerabilities and personnel security deficiencies that require immediate attention from command levels and comprehensive protocol revision throughout the installation. The 5 recruits stood frozen as Blake's attention turned toward them, their earlier confidence completely obliterated by the arrival of Special Operations Command Authority whose response procedures exceeded their understanding and whose consequences would extend into areas involving classified activities and elite unit disciplinary protocols that operated under different rules than standard military justice procedures. Martinez attempted to speak, his voice barely audible as he processed the magnitude of consequences flowing from their harassment attempt against personnel whose qualifications exceeded their comprehension. Commander, he whispered, we made a tactical error based on incomplete assessment of personnel assignments and operational activities. We request consideration for our limited training and experience when determining appropriate disciplinary measures. Blake's expression remained professionally neutral as she processed the recruit's appeal through frameworks designed for special operations personnel whose actions required intervention from command structures that operated under classified protocols. Recruits, she announced, her voice carrying across the silent mess hall where every conversation had stopped to focus on official consequences. Your actions demonstrated exactly the kind of security vulnerabilities that Petty Officer Valdez was assigned to identify and assess. The revelation transformed the situation from disciplinary action into educational opportunity as Blake explained how their tactical miscalculation had actually served the operational objectives of the classified assessment mission. Your harassment attempt revealed critical deficiencies in facility personnel awareness, threat recognition capabilities, and response protocols that require immediate attention from command levels and comprehensive training revision throughout the installation. Johnson felt relief beginning to replace terror as he processed Blake's explanation. Though his understanding of special operations procedures remained insufficient to fully comprehend the implications of their actions within classified mission parameters and operational security frameworks. Commander, he asked carefully Does this mean our interference actually contributed to mission objectives rather than compromising classified activities? Blake nodded, her professional assessment acknowledging both the accidental nature of their contribution and the serious consequences that could have resulted from their actions under different operational circumstances. Your tactical error provided valuable data about facility vulnerabilities, she explained, though interference with special operations personnel conducting classified activities normally results in consequences that extend far beyond routine military discipline and facility management procedures. Rodriguez approached Blake with professional curiosity about procedures involving operational security and classified mission protocols that seemed to blend routine facility operations with special warfare activities. "Commander," she asked, her voice carrying careful respect for information that might exceed her clearance level, "how many other support assignments might actually involve special operations personnel conducting classified assessments we are not authorized to recognize?" The question created a moment of silence as Blake considered operational security requirements balanced against educational opportunities for facility personnel whose awareness had been significantly enhanced through direct exposure to special operations capabilities and mission procedures. "That information remains classified," she replied, though today's demonstration should remind everyone that appearances can be profoundly misleading indicators of actual qualifications and operational responsibilities. Valdez stepped forward, her movement professional, as she prepared to receive official instructions regarding mission completion and operational security procedures following facility exposure and command intervention. "Commander," she reported, "the assessment identified multiple vulnerabilities requiring immediate attention, including personnel awareness deficiencies, threat recognition failures, and inadequate response protocols throughout the installation." Blake reviewed the assessment data on her secure device, her expression reflecting satisfaction with mission objectives accomplished despite operational compromise and facility exposure. "Petty Officer Valdez," she announced, "your mission is complete with exceptional results that will drive comprehensive security improvements and personnel training revisions throughout the facility. Your operational excellence under hostile conditions exemplifies naval special warfare standards and professional competence." The mess hall erupted in respectful applause as facility personnel recognized they had witnessed something extraordinary, their appreciation for special operations capabilities enhanced through direct observation of professional excellence under pressure and tactical precision that belonged in classified training demonstrations rather than routine facility encounters. If this story moved you, share your thoughts about your favorite moment or character, or tell us about someone you know who showed hidden strength when others underestimated their capabilities. The 5 recruits learned that day that respect must be earned through demonstrated competence rather than demanded through intimidation, and that true military bearing reveals itself through professional excellence rather than harassment of those who appear different or serve in unexpected roles.